Hey YouTube, Untamed here. So today I figured I would talk about dealership markups. A lot of you guys who have been sticking around my channel for a while, you know how I feel about them. So hopefully I won't totally beat that to death during this video, but I figured I would walk you through, again, just kind of remind you like, hey, this is my approach whenever I purchase a new vehicle, especially TRD Pros, which tend to have, unfortunately, ADMs on them, additional dealer markups. So, I mean, this advice here isn't only applicable to TRD Pros. As you guys know, I've purchased GT350R before, which at least at that time were definitely prone to markups, as well as the Ford Raptor that I bought. I bought a brand new 2019 Ford Raptor, and at that time markups were quite prevalent, and I think the markups on those are starting to come back a little bit just because we're in that null period where they're not offering the Raptor in 2021, and 2020 is the last I guess year right now to get the Gen 2 Raptor. So this advice here, hopefully it can apply to other vehicles. I mean, what are some other examples? You got the TRXs that are starting to hit the lots. I imagine a lot of dealerships are going to put the ADMs on those. Unfortunately, Porsches, I mean, I know that's a little bit different category here, but GT3s, they always have markups on them. GT500, Civic Type R, Audi RS6, the list kind of goes on of the typical vehicles that tend to run the markup. So again, just a reminder, I think a lot of you guys know, who have been sticking around my channel, you know that I have had, I think I did a count the other day, I think 10 Toyotas. I guess that's not even including the FJs. So I think, what, 12 Toyotas in the last few years. So in much of them, I think 9 of them were TRD Pros, one of them being a Heritage Edition, again limited to 1,200 models for 2020 as well as 2021. So they're all pretty limited production to some degree. Obviously you can order a TRD Pro, but it's just production is a little bit slower on them, right? So again, that's kind of a reminder of my experience on it. I do have an MBA, I do have a PhD in industrial organizational psychology, so I kind of get what I'm talking about when it comes to just the business models that dealerships tend to run and implement. And I think maybe that is a large reason why I'm extra upset about the fact that dealerships run the ADMs, because they don't have to. A dealership, I don't care what kind of dealership you're at, if you're in the middle of nowhere, you do not need to run ADMs to try to be successful. And I'm pretty confident in saying that out loud. So ADMs, I think they're sheer greed. They're absolute greed, just an opportunity for the dealership to make a few additional coins. So I'm not about it. In my opinion, I think it's a nearsighted business model. A nearsighted business model that, again, you're just trying to bleed the customer a little bit and try to make that additional profit, where it's not going to be the effective long-term approach. I would argue selling a vehicle at MSRP at the price tag of which the actual manufacturer of the vehicle suggests you to sell it at is going to earn you better business and more money over the long haul. And not even the long haul. I would argue just over the next couple of years, you're going to make more money from that customer if you just sell it to them at a fairer price tag. And let me make this clear too. I mean, MSRP for TRD Pros, I think that is fair. TRD Pros, they sustain such an amazing resale value because they sell at MSRP, and I think that it is a realistic price tag for it. But once you start throwing that $5,000, $10,000 additional dealer markup, that's when you start messing up. And I think that only does bad second and third order effects to the prices of these. Not to mention, by you paying $10,000 more for a vehicle like this, you're only hurting everyone else's ability to actually pay what this vehicle is worth. And well, the actual manufacturer Toyota, the suggested retail price, MSRP, manufacturer's retail or suggested retail price, is what it is for good reason. And I think I would much rather trust an actual manufacturer rather than a greedy dealership trying to capitalize on supply and demand. And a lot of people are quick to make that. I shouldn't say a lot of people, but you can tell the people who work like at a dealership or a sales rep, people who are actually receiving some benefit of milking customers, you can tell they're quick to defend the whole supply and demand thing, which I'm all for in some regards, but not when it comes to vehicles. All right, so where are we at? So supply and demand, I don't think that's a good defense for this. No dealership should ever rely on, we talked through that. You have two different tactics. So you get the dealerships that are quick just to put to slap on a $5,000 $8,000. That seems to be a popular one. And then sometimes, of course, like a $10,000 markup on the TRD Pros in particular. We're only talking TRD Pros for now, I guess. Those tend to be, the popular markups. But then you also get dealerships who are quick to put on a few little additions on the vehicles, like whether it be like window tint, different wheels, side rails here. They put all these additional things on it, then totally inflate the price. I remember when I was looking for the Tundra here, there was a dealership down in Oregon I'd reached out to, and they had window tint. I think the itemized cost of the window tint for the Tundra was $650. I was like, okay, wow, that's like a clear example of them just inflating the cost to try to nickel and dime the customer, which is pretty sad. And you see that often. They'll put you remember that example I just showed the other day of the Lunar Rock Tundra with the red wheels? They marked up the price of it $2,500 for the wheel package, the wheel and tire package. That's how much those tires and wheels probably cost, right? Their Black Rhino wheels are not that swanky, and then the KO2s are probably anywhere from $1,100 to $1,300, depending on how much they actually pay for them. So the wheel and tire package costs $2,500, but what about these beautiful TRD BBS wheels that came off of it? So what did they do with these? And these by themselves cost anywhere from $2,000 to $2,500. But again, they didn't actually include that within the pricing adjustment, right? So they added $2,500, but they also took off $2,500. So it was a free gimme for the dealership, so to speak, if that makes sense. Alrighty, so those are the two examples: the itemized cost and inflation of additions put on the vehicle, and then of course the most greedy one was the just tacking on $5,000-$10,000. So my advice is, when you go to look at these vehicles and you go check them out at the dealership, don't get goo goo gaga over it. So many people do that. They'll get in there, they fall victim to the sales tactics that have been in existence forever. They'll get you seated in their chair. And then you're comfortable, you've invested time there, you've gone back and forth with offers and negotiations, so to speak. Let me talk to my manager. Like, that stuff is so annoying. Don't deal with that. My advice to you is, you can go check one out, but go there and check out this in person. If it's your first time seeing one of these, go check it out in person, but purposely go there knowing that you're not going to get that one, right? Go there to actually get a feel for the vehicle, make sure you like it. And unless they're willing to make a crazy landslide deal offer for you, don't stick around. Don't do the back and forth thing. Say, hey, I'm willing to pay this much money. And if they say no, walk away. And I guarantee you they're going to be calling your phone, kind of thing. So that tends to happen. But go there, check it out. Don't get goo goo gaga over it, because much like ladies out there, there's plenty other fish in the sea. So you're going to get there. There are a lot more of these at other dealerships around the nation. So don't get too stuck on it, okay? So when you go in there, you actually make sure you like it. Then I encourage you to go home, pop up the interwebs, and pull up every single dealership within a 3 or 4 state radius. And this is what I do. And this is where, like, if you're no kidding wanting to get this vehicle and you're wanting to get the best possible price tag for it, you're going to have to put in work. It's not just going to fall in your lap. And if it does, props to you. That's awesome. I would think you lucked out. But for TRD Pros in particular, if you want to land a really good deal, even a little bit below MSRP, anything below MSRP is a very good deal on a TRD Pro right now. Granted, if you're getting a brand new 2020 right now and 2021 is just a few days away, getting a little bit below MSRP isn't a screaming deal. Okay, so that's kind of obvious, right? So at any rate, so go home, start calling around, call dealerships. Even the dealerships that don't have TRD Pros listed on their website in their inventory, I still encourage you to give them a call, because that in particular, this one here, if you guys remember, for those of you who saw that video of it, this was not listed at all on their website. In fact, I called on a 2020 super white Tundra TRD Pro there that they had it's just enlarged KO2s on it. It was pretty simple, but they had it marked down a couple thousand. So I called on that, and they just weren't able to get me that number that I was hoping for. It was a kind of a long shot offer I made for him, if you recall. And he's like, oh, darn it. Well, I'm sorry I'm not able to help you out, but if there's anything else. And I said, actually, I'm really looking for a Lunar Rock, a Tundra TRD Pro. And he's like, Well, you won't believe it, but I'm looking at one right now on our showroom floor. So, and it was not listed on their website just yet because they had just gotten it. So all that to say, call the different dealerships. Even if the dealerships in your region they tend to be marking them up, call outside of your state first. Like I said, I bought this one from North Dakota. So I mean, if you really want a vehicle, you got to kind of work hard to get it. So call the different dealerships, let them know, say, hey, I'm willing to pay. I'm looking for the best possible deal. Be transparent with them. Tell them what you're thinking. Say, hey, I'm looking for this particular vehicle, but I am calling around multiple state radius to see who's willing to play ball. Like, be honest with them. You don't need to lie to them, but then see what they come up with for you. Negotiate with them over the phone until you get to a number that you want to hear. So now, make sure once you get to that number that you want to hear, then try your best to get that. It's not that hard at this point. Just get that offer in writing, and they'll likely text it to you or email it to you, the write-up. And what you're looking for now, you're not looking for payments. You're not trying to look for the best payment. You're trying to look for the best out-the-door price. And if you're trading in a vehicle, don't allude to that until the end of the deal. So get the best possible price on the actual vehicle you're getting. And then you can say, oh, well, actually, I do have a vehicle. I'm willing to trade in. If you can work in a great trade value for that, we can get something going, So make that your last little bit. The same goes with financing or paying cash. Paying cash doesn't really help you out. I'm sure many of you have heard this before. When you go in there and you say, oh, yeah, I'm paying cash, you think that's easier for them. But in all actuality, it's not a good thing, because 9 times out of 10, probably more than that, dealerships have arrangements with their loan agents and the banking institutions that are actually offering up the loans. So they're able to reach out to them, and they get a small kickback, anywhere from, I'm not even going to give a number, but I mean a fair amount of money back just by finding and financing a loan through these other institutions, other banks. So there's value in it for the actual dealership to finance it. So I mean, they do prefer you to finance it. So if you're going to pay cash, don't allude to that until the very end. So make that your final bit, because sometimes if you finance through them, Toyota in particular, you get a little bit of an additional incentive. So they're going to try to work that incentive into your deal already as it is. But at the very end, if you're like, you know what, if I finance it, I can capitalize on this $500 off, right? And then they're kind of in a position to say, actually, yeah, you could do that. And now you got $500 additional dollars off, So one thing to consider there. And cash, when you say cash, obviously you're not financing it through anybody, and they don't get a monetary kickback from the banking institution. So not so good. Trying to think what else. So once you get that offer in writing from a different dealership, that is then a powerful weapon, right? So you can now take that to your local dealerships, right? And you can start kind of farming around your state and saying, hey, I already have this deal lined up with, a dealership in Arizona, but, I'd prefer to work with you because you're in my backyard. So you can go tell them that, and they're like, okay, cool. And, you can sugarcoat it a little bit too. I've heard great things about you. I've read great things about your dealership. Can you help me out? I'd rather work with you than travel, just making a small hike to go pick up my vehicle, And 9 times out of 10, when you ask them to beat the deal, say, hey, can you beat this offer from this out-of-state dealership? 9 times out of 10, they won't beat it, but they will match it. But it's important to ask them to beat it, because, they are competitive. They do want to earn your business. And if they don't, they want to keep their markup, shame on them. So 9 times out of 10, those with markups have markups because they have successfully tricked people into paying them before. So they have the markup still. They've already bled a few customers like, well, we sold our last few Tundra TRD Pros for $8,000 over. Why would I sell this one to you at MSRP? And my firm belief on it, personal belief, is just because you can does not mean you should. And kind of goes back to the supply and demand. Just because they can milk you for a little bit does not mean they should be doing that. But especially during I don't know if I want to get on that rant, but especially during a national pandemic, the fact that they're still doing that kind of stuff right now with a lot of people who would be buying these type of vehicles, I would say, this is still like, the top end for a lot of the middle income folks out there. And this is a very reasonable vehicle to want to pursue. And the fact that they're sticking on a ADM, I think, is extremely greedy during COVID-19 timeframe. So there you have it. I mean, that's kind of the biggest piece of that. I mentioned, don't inform them of your intent to trade in until the very end, and don't inform them of your intent to pay cash or finance until the very end, as that makes you, puts you in a position to get an even better deal perhaps. And the final thing, I almost didn't mention this, but the final thing is, don't entertain their documentation fees. Don't entertain them if they're over $150, I would say. I mean, if they're $150 and you're spending this kind of money on a truck anyway, you shouldn't meow that much. But if they're one of the dealerships that has we have a set rate $700 doc fee, like, that is BS. That is absolute BS. And that is just an opportunity to nickel and dime you a little bit more. And then they'll claim that, hey, no, everybody who buys a vehicle from us, they pay it. You don't have to. I've only paid a doc fee twice out of the last 15 vehicles I've ever purchased. So you don't have to. You can just talk to them, meow to them a little bit, say, no, this seems a little absurd. And you should. If you're already neck deep in the deal, they'll waive it. Don't start the conversation with, I'm not going to pay your doc fee, because then they're like, okay, we're not going to deal with you. But if you're already neck deep into the deal, they will be a little bit quicker to get rid of it. So by you doing that and you reaching out to all the different dealers in multiple state radius, expect to get 100,000 phone calls back. They're going to be blowing up your phone for the next month or two. I still got Toyota dealerships still emailing me saying, hey, are you still interested? But I just tell them, no, I ended up getting one. But prepare for that, the wave of phone calls, because it's going to happen, and it's going to get a little annoying. So kind of have your elevator speech ready, saying, hey, no, I already have this deal on the table. All right, this is a number I'm willing to pay. Forgive me for being blunt, but this is exactly what I'm going to pay, as I know it's a fair price, and I know other people have paid this too. So just tell them that, and let them kind of scrounger on it and come back to you on it. So there you have it, guys. Hopefully this is at least useful to some of you, as this is my approach to it whenever I'm buying one of these vehicles, and it's worked out pretty well in the past. So hopefully this is helpful. I appreciate you guys watching as always. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram, or of course in a question in the comment section. Thanks for watching. Until next time.